Hello and good morning, Robin. How are you doing today?
Good morning. So nice to speak with you. I'm great. Thank you.
Man, you got to tell me what your secret sauce is in the way of being able to write a book that is meant for YA readers. But as an adult, I'm going, oh, my God, give me some more of this.
Well, first of all, caffeine has never hurt. So that's always a good plus for sure. I think, I've answered that question off and on throughout my career. How can you be an adult but understand kids or write about kids in a way that resonates with them, which is a huge compliment to ask that question, of course, to me. But I think it's also, regardless of our age, who are we? How do we relate to the world? A little bit older and a little bit wiser. But I don't think the questions change very much. I think it's just who are we in that moment and what sort of tools do we have at our disposal to answer them.
I've put a lot of research into this thing called tweendom, and the thing that keeps coming up is the fact that it's not that we're spying on what it's like to be a teen today. It's just that our internal bodies on the inside still believe we're a certain age. I still say I'm 17. When people say, how old are you? I'm 17 inside my mind, body, and soul. So I think that's one of the reasons why I love these books so much.
Oh, it's funny. I will say to somebody, we'll talk about middle school or junior high, whatever you call it in your community. And it just immediately everybody goes, oh gosh, middle school. It brings up this anxiety and terror of being that age. So I think it's in some ways like a bonding experience. And, I hope kids go through life without feeling anxious or nervous about those things, but those are also very valid emotions about, new experiences as well.
I'm a mobile DJ. We just did a middle school dance. Oh, let me tell you about that energy that was in that gymnasium.
I have cold sweat just thinking about it.
But what's fun about doing that is that when I do get the opportunity to sit with them before as they're setting up the gym or at the end when they're cleaning things up, I'll bring up authors like yourself. And it's so fast. They look at me going, how do you know about Robin? What are you talking about? Yeah. And they really do. To me, that's part of the connection thing between adults and tweens.
Yeah. It's funny, I think social media, even though hopefully younger kids are not on social media yet, they're aware of it. And I think the internet exists as well. Kids are aware of things in a way that maybe you and I weren't aware of growing up. Our world was a lot smaller. Now it's global within 15 seconds. And so I think we all do share a lot of knowledge. I have had very in-depth conversations about eye cream with my friend's 10-year-old daughter, and I have had Taylor Swift conversations with my friend's 9-year-old daughter, very serious conversations about those things.
The conversations you're having with these soon-to-be teens or tweens, do you feel that that's what shows up inside your books? Because, you've got some lessons in here about forgiveness that if I walked up to somebody and talked about forgiveness, they'd go, get out of here. But yet they find it in a book, and they're going to be listening to it.
You don't have to be putting yourself out there per se, right? You can just read about it. And I also think, and I remember this so vividly as a teenager, and I see it a lot now when I write for older kids, older teenagers, the way you talk to your friends is very different than the way you talk to parents, to your mom, to your dad, to your family. And it's very different than how you feel on the inside and the way your brain talks to yourself. And I think it's always really important to keep that in mind, that what a kid says is sometimes very, very different than what they actually feel. And my job when I'm writing is to remember that, to keep in mind the point of view of my character.
One of the things that I'm seeing a lot of these days is I'm seeing a lot of twins as well as triplets. I would love to see the numbers of people that are going to read your books and get back in touch with you.
There are definitely more twins. There's definitely a lot of twins in my family as well, where the idea came from. And one of the reasons I wanted the main characters to be twins, and they're both the dual narrators of the book, they go back and forth chapter to chapter, but I wanted to see what it looks like when you grow up your whole life looking like somebody else, sharing the same thing, acting, not the same way, but living the same life. And then once you hit that age where you start to differ and you start to have different interests, Jac starts to have a crush on a neighborhood boy, and Aggie doesn't feel that way yet. And who gets their period first? Yeah. All of those different things. For their birthday, their dads take them to a restaurant and they take them to a store, and that's their big birthday celebration. And this is the first time where Aggie wants to go to Cheesecake Factory and Build-A-Bear, and Jac wants to go to sushi and Sephora. And both of those are valid. Both of those are totally fine. But it's okay, how do you maintain that friendship and that relationship with your twin when you're changing so quickly? And there's really not an answer to that. It's something that they'll probably navigate for the rest of their lives.
You just opened up a huge door, not necessarily with twins, but I looked exactly like my brother, and I chose different things so I wouldn't be compared to my brother, and became a radio person because my brother wanted nothing to do with something like that. I wonder how many adults will pick up this book and go, I looked exactly like my sibling, and I too went a completely different direction.
Yeah, it's wild how things like that are so formative in your childhood can shape you as an adult, which was what makes writing books like this so much fun.
Speaking of your writing, what is your discipline each day? I mean, the first thing I have to do every single morning is I've got to write. That is my discipline. What is your discipline?
That is absolutely not my discipline in any way. I wish it was, to be honest. That would probably be more productive. I am definitely the kind of person who takes a lot of time to wool gather. I think a lot about the book when I'm driving, going for walks with the dog, when I'm doing the dishes. I picture it over and over and over in my head. And then once I can see it, almost like a TV show or a movie, that's when I sit down and I write. And I can write pretty big chunks of the book at one time. And then I step back and I do more days of thinking about it, not thinking about it, taking a step back, and then diving back in again. So I don't really have a discipline. I have tried that several times. I have tried to sit down at the same time every day, train that brain muscle. I've used spreadsheets to track my word counts, and all it's led to is some really, really bad starts of books. And so I just sort of embraced how it works, because the truth is it does work. This is my 9th book. So I feel like whatever I'm doing, I'm just going to keep doing that until it doesn't work anymore.
The reason why I bring that up is because I know inside my heart that someone's going to be reading your books and they too are going to become an author, but they're going to run away from it in the very beginning because they don't understand that we can do exactly what you just talked about.
Yes. When I do school visits, kids always say, like, well, how did you become a writer? Or what's your day like as a writer? And I really try to impress upon them, if you ask that question of every writer you meet, you're going to get a completely different answer every single time. And there's really no wrong way to do this job. There isn't a playbook. There isn't a guidebook. Whatever works for you to make you a creative person that can still perpetuate that creativity, where you don't burn yourself out, where you don't feel like you've worked yourself into a hole or you've overworked yourself. That's the way to do it. And I will obviously offer writing advice if kids ask, but I always, present it with the idea of, this is what works for me. It doesn't have to work for you. And I think that is one of the hardest and the best parts of the job. There isn't a plan. But if you're a person who doesn't always work well with a plan, then this could really work for you. Yeah,
I always sit down with them and go get a writing instrument, call it your own, give it a name, and after you're done writing your story, never use that writing instrument again because it belongs to that book. and that's the way I do it.
Thank you for your friend. And
I do it that way with my Mont Blancs. I mean, my last book, I have not used that writing instrument ever since.
I feel like I'm that way with locations. Like I wrote a book, Far from the Tree, in the coffee house. And after I finished the book, I never went back to that coffee house. I just couldn't do it. I felt like I had done it already. And then I wrote this book in my home office, which is a problem because I need to now find somewhere else that isn't in my house. So.
Yeah, because it's too easy to walk away.
It is. It's, the dog needs to go out. Or, there's a spoon in the sink. I can't work with this kind of conditions, and the next thing you know, you're organizing the spice drawer and nothing gets done.
So how did you get a softball team involved in this storyline? When did that hit you? Was it in the middle of the night?
No, I really wanted to write about this idea of girls coming together under the guise. They just have this kind of disorganized softball team, but it's a way to keep them coming back together again and again outside of school. And a lot of it was based on the idea of my mom. When she was growing up in the 50s, she was extremely athletic. She loved to play sports, and she couldn't because at that time in the 1950s, girls weren't allowed to play sports. There wasn't soccer teams. There wasn't volleyball for, it didn't exist like that. And so she wasn't able to play. And I always thought, like, she's had a wonderful life, and obviously she's had me, so I'm very happy with the way things went. But you can't help but think, well, what other opportunities could have presented themselves? Scholarships, college scholarships, anything like that, the way that they were available to boys at that time. And I just wanted to see girls, to be honest, not only playing and having the ability to play, but not realizing how special that is or how rare that could be. No, not understanding that not everybody had that.
Wow. The Girls of Skylark Lane. That in itself should inspire people to write stories about their own neighborhoods and communities.
I would hope so. I think the more the better.
Yeah. Where can people go to find out more about all of your writing? Because I want these middle schoolers and adults to find your writing and give you some love.
So the book comes out this week. You can find it at your local independent bookstore. Always a big fan of my local indies. You can also find it online wherever books are sold.
Have you ever, I'm probably going over the time limit here, but I love going into those independent bookstores just to people watch. It is the greatest experience because they're discovering things. It's new to them. Yeah. Oh, I love it. My local bookstore has a huge staff picks wall, and I'm always going in to read, like, what is the staff reading? Because I know it's going to be good. You got to come back to this show anytime in the future, Robin. The door is always going to be open for you.
Oh, thank you very, very much. This has been a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate it.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
I will do my best. I make no promises, but I will do my best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.